Hey everyone, J-Ro here, back with another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video, and today I am bringing you my damage comparison video for our new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth crossover physical water unit Yuffie versus our old half-year anniversary physical water DPS Glenn. Alright, so before we jump into this damage comparison, if you could please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you can be notified when I post more videos. Alright, so I've done some pretty extensive testing here. So the way we're going to go about this, so we're going to start off, I'm going to test first with both in the same team. Their stats are going to be very similar. We're going to do a battle against a water weak enemy from the max damage test. Then we're going to go and look at some, we'll look at the difference between when weakness exploit is not able to be applied versus Glenn, who should be able to output more damage because of Slay Today. And then we will go into separate damage testing, allowing Glenn and Yuffie both to do as much damage as they possibly can with their best possible build that I can come up with, minus using materia. So I won't be using materia to elevate the stats in that part of the video. Okay, so that's just a preview of what's to come. Alright, so as you can see here, I have the damage testing portion here for Yuffie and Glenn. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's take a look at how I have them set up. Alright, so Yuffie here, of course, water arcing them. In the main hand, we do have the Bird of Prey. As you can see, the percentages are modified by brands. The brands here are nothing but physical attack brands. And so instead of pairing this time with a physical attack all weapon, I went ahead and made sure to use a physical attack stat weapon. So I'm using the Arctic Star. And then for her sub weapons, I am using the Tranquility for physical attack all and water potency, Noble Collar for attack and water potency, and Feather Gloves for attack and water potency. As you can see, we're not going to be testing Leviathan damage here, I didn't need to use any materia to modify her stat here. So our abilities that are important that we want to make sure that are matching is boost water potency level 8. So we want both characters to have level 8 water potency, which is 100% more damage. Physical ability potency 52, which is 70% more damage. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and stat wise, the only stat that truly matters for this portion of the testing is the physical attack stat. So for Yuffie it is 9,599. Okay, let's go ahead and look at Glenn. So first thing you will note, probably, of course, I'm running his Vanguard style. Then he does have Extreme Slasher. It is modified through branding. It does have a 3% boost in branding. Probably need to work on some more brands on that to try to get another physical attack or another boost to the potency there, but this will do for now. So 927% damage versus the 900%. Alright. And then, of course, Glenn is going to be using his Slay Today. This is his water boosting weapon. Also, it does provide physical defense down mid tier, maximum mid for only 35 seconds, while when Glenn's HP is high, that's higher than 50%, it will give him that water damaging buff. Okay. and his is actually branded. Okay, so we're gonna go look at subs right quick. For his subs, we have the Tempest, physical attack and water potency, the enemy launcher for physical attack and physical ability potency, and the guide gloves for physical attack and physical ability potency. All right. So like we said before, the important R abilities here is water potency level 8, physical ability potency level 6, which that matches with Yuffie perfectly. And the stat is 9,597, so only 2 points off. Like literally 2 points off. So basically we do have the same stat line. All right. Of course, Barrett is here. He provides us with our water resist down, and that's all that matters for this portion of the testing. And then I will be, when we go into the Bahamut portion, the non-elemental portion testing here, we will need to actually do, of course, the normal maintenance for Bahamut. So that's why he's bringing electro cannon and why he's outfitted with magic defense, all weapons. Okay. And it also gives me a chance to test out his missing score. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first portion of the damage test with us going against the max damage water challenge. Alright, so let's start off by, we're going to go ahead and see what it looks like before the command gauge is full for both people. Alright, 156, 163 at their base, so not very far off. Alright, we'll go ahead and get Glenn buffed because Yuffie now has the weakness exploit. And the command gauge is now full, so let's see. Yuffie is doing 394k and Glenn did 416k. 422 from Glenn, 399 from Yuffie. Let's go ahead and add in the water resist down. Okay, we have 585 from Yuffie, 628 from Glenn. Very respectable, but Glenn is winning with his setup. Alright. And Glenn has to rebuff himself here, while Yuffie is able to still get some more damage in. Okay, 596 there for Yuffie. And then here comes Glenn bringing up the rear, but doing more damage, 637. Alright, so even though Yuffie is not having to rebuff herself, she's actually hitting under Glenn. Alright. And there we go. That'll take care of this portion of the battle. Alright, so that'll take care of our water damage testing part. So my first takeaway from that is, amazingly, I thought Yuffie should be hitting harder than Glenn, but Glenn is actually, with the water buff up, being able to keep up with Yuffie and her weakness exploit. Granted, Yuffie's weakness exploit is only 30% versus what Tifa's is at 40%, but Yuffie does actually outtake in damage on percentage because she has a little bit higher, 13% more damage in her C ability versus Glenn. So they're almost basically even because they both have the same R ability set up and they have the same stat line for physical attack. Alright, so now that we see that how Yuffie did against a water weak enemy, let's go ahead and hop over to Bahamut EX2 and see how she does when weakness exploit actually can't exploit a weakness. Alright, I'll see you there. Alright, here we are against our old testing partner, Bahamut EX2. This also gives me a great chance to test out missing score because I have to survive this initial Mega Flare. Alright, so In the meantime, we'll do the normal maintenance stuff, get the magic attack down. We can't worry about magic defense. I didn't bring nobody to lower that magic defense and get us buffed up, so we're just gonna go ahead and attack. Alright, so we're here to see the command gauge being full. Okay, Glenn attacked beforehand. That was 88k and she's hitting for 64. Let's go ahead and see Glenn has his water buff. He hits for 141k while she can only hit for 102k. Okay. And we did get off missing scores ability there, so we can now tank this Mega Flare without us debuff, removing the magic down debuff at all. That's amazing. Alright. Glenn's water buff is still there. Let's see. Okay. I think I hit it a little bit too early. That was only 89k from him. But as you can see, because weakness exploit only helps out the damage when the enemy is weak to that element. So because Bahamut doesn't have any elemental weaknesses, Yuffie is kind of just doing regular damage here. Alright. Still respectable at doing, let's see right here. Did 101 with her while Glenn is still hitting for 138k. Alright, so that will conclude part 2. My takeaways from that: the point of this portion of the testing was to show that weakness exploits weakness is the fact that when you're fighting against an enemy that doesn't have an elemental resistance, is useless completely. But Yuffie still did a respectable amount of damage, and you can't help the fact that weakness exploit is built into her weapon. But Glenn did still overshadow her because of the simple fact that the water buff, damage buff, doesn't care if the enemy is water weak or not. So it just increased the amount of water damage. Alright, so with that being said, let's go ahead and let both of these characters cut loose. What I will do is I'm going to go back in. I'm going to show you builds for first Glenn, then we'll go to Yuffie, we'll do a max damage test, and then we'll compare at the end to conclude the video. Alright, I'll see you at the character screen. Alright, so here we are back at our character selection. We're back at our max damage test, and we're going to start with testing Glenn. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the build. Just as like before, I have him with the same setup, Vanguard style for the outfit, the Stream Slasher in the main hand, the Slay of the Day in the secondary hand. For his sub equips, we have the standard setup here of the Black Whiskers with physical attack and water potency, the enemy launcher with attack and physical ability potency, and his automatic for attack and physical ability potency. So his R abilities are physical attack level 7, attack level 6, water potency level 8, and physical ability potency level 6. And his important stat here, of course, is his physical attack, which is 12.2k. Alright. So just so you can see what the other supports are running, because they will be different between the two battles, because of the fact that Yuffie has to have something different than Glenn. So for on Barrett, of course, he's gonna be our main debuffer here. We're gonna use him to do with Shark Slayer, we're gonna do our water resist down, and we got W Machine to do physical defense down. On his sub equips, we have the Rocket Lance, the Tranquility, and the Bahamut Cutter. Okay, so those are there for physical attack all and attack all. Alright, and then on Aerith, she's our buffer. She's gonna be able to do magic defense down and magic attack up with Crimson Staff. And then with Common Run, she'll be able to give us our physical attack up. And then of course Princess Guard, so we can be able to get that additional 3 ATB during the battle, so we can see just how much extra damage we can squeeze out. On her sub, she has the other 2 physical attack all weapons, Bahamut Greatsword and Stream Slasher, and then also the Blue Daffodil gloves for attack all. Alright, so without a further ado, let's go ahead and see how well Glenn stacks up in this challenge. Alright, so we'll go ahead and first switch over to Barrett so we can get the quick burst going. That's our physical defense down. That way it'll last us longer because he has the buff extension. Go ahead and get our water buff, get our water resist down, and our physical attack up. And before the command gauge is full, we're looking at 724k damage. Alright, command gauge is full, 1,000,000.12. Not bad. Okay, 1,013,000, 1,104,000. Okay, so pretty strong. And here's what I feel is Glenn's weakness. He has to recast this Raise and Strike, which is only 45k damage versus him doing another 1 million hit. Okay. Alright, but we're gonna keep going. Alright. Getting down to the wire here. We'll go ahead and add in the magic attack buff so we can see the maximum damage he can do with his Leviathan. And it'll also give us that magic defense down buff on the Cactar as well. Alright. And can Glenn get one? Glenn gets one more hit in before we get there. Okay. All right. And okay, Glenn, I see you. You got a good extra hit in. All right. Okay. And the Leviathan damage is 3.2 million damage. Nice. Alright, and that will conclude our Glenn portion for this damage testing. Glenn ended out with 13,690,344 damage, which is pretty respectable for the say that this how old this unit is. What really helps him is the fact that he can boost his own water damage, just like Magic Water Tifa can boost hers. Okay, well, now let's go see what the newcomer on the block can do. Let's jump over to my Yuffie build. I'll see you there. Alright, and we're back. It is time for us to check out Yuffie in the max damage challenge. Let's go ahead and jump into her build. Alright, so of course we have her Water Arcanum for her outfit. We have the Bahamut Cutter in the main hand, just so she can kind of mirror Glenn with having a physical attack all weapon in the main hand, freeing up a slot from having to be used to try to build it in her subs. And then physical ability potency for 39 points. Then we have the Bird of Prey, of course, our water damaging weapon, physical attack, and physical ability potency for our abilities. Then on her subs, we are using Slay today for physical attack and water potency, Tempest for physical attack, water potency, and the Feathered Gloves for attack and water potency. Alright, so a note for when I am building Yuffie versus building Glenn. So when I built Glenn, once you put on Stream Slasher, Slay today, and put on Black Whiskers, you max out physical attack at level 7 and water potency at level 8. Building Yuffie on the opposite hand, I had to build all 3 subs for water potency, but it was easier for me to build her physical attack and her physical ability potency. So unlike Glenn, who had level 6 physical ability potency, Yuffie has level 7 physical ability potency. But like Glenn, she does have level 8 water potency. And the other R abilities that we have here are physical attack level 7, attack level 4, and that's it. Alright, so with this, with no materia, she has a stat line of 11,837, which is about 400 less than Glenn. So not a big difference in the attack stat. So in theory, Yuffie should do more damage because of the fact that she has the weakness exploit and doesn't have to refresh it. Well, in the case of against a water enemy. So I guess we will see. So just for the show, the differences in the Barret and the Aerith here. So Barret, I had changed out. Basically, I changed out Bahamut Cutter for the String Slasher. So basically, literally, the main hand weapon of the other character is in the sub slot of Barret. That's really the only change that I made. Okay, but just transparency, let you know that that's what I did for the build. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and see how Yuffie stacks up in this battle. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at Yuffie's damage, and she's going to just start off doing damage off of that. Alright, 265k with no boost from the command gauge, and let's go ahead and get all our debuffs and buffs going. Alright. And now let's see, we got a command gauge full, weakness exploit going. 1,000,006. Not bad. Alright. And it 1,000,007. Yep, 1,000,007. And we're just gonna keep going. I mean, and that's where the uniqueness comes from Yuffie, is that she doesn't have to refresh her buff because it's being refreshed with each attack, but she's missing about 600k damage versus Glenn right now. Glenn was hitting for like 1.13 million and she's hitting for like 1.6 and 7, so she's really missing some damage there. All right, let's go ahead and get that magic attack and magic defense going so we can test out the Leviathan here. All right. But her damage is just straight up consistent all the way through the battle. Alright. Do I get one more in with her? Yep, we snuck one in right before the end there. And there we go. Alright. And now let's see the Leviathan. 2.9 million damage. So it was actually less than Glenn. Alright, and that'll conclude our damage comparison between Yuffie's Bird of Prey and Glenn's String Slasher and Slay Today. So the first main thing to talk about here is the fact that Yuffie only did 14,031,601 versus Glenn's 13,069,069. It's only 400k difference. So basically one attack, which is pretty not really significant. The other thing to note about Yuffie and Glenn is that both of them didn't have materia, both of them didn't have access to an ultimate weapon. Once you add the ultimate weapon into Yuffie's kit here, she does tremendously a higher amount of damage because she gets additional ATB from the beginning of the battle. She gets additional ATB from 2 uses of the weapon. And then she also gains extra stats and ability potency from the R ability. So that makes it different if you do have Conformer. But Glenn is still a very strong DPS, even so, because you can still use him in content where you need to use non-elemental damage, or should we say lack thereof. And then versus Yuffie, where exploit weakness really doesn't work on enemies that do not have an elemental weakness. Alright, so let me know down in the comment section what you thought about the damage comparison in these 2 units, and which one do you think came out on top. Leave a like on the video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I post more videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.